Ooh, I'm dreaming of the Caribbean because it's cold and frosty here.
Hello, YouTube viewers. I have another challenge. Ah, this year it's a postcard challenge. And everybody picked a plain paper bag, lunch bag, and inside was a postcard. So we didn't know what we were going to get until we opened up the bag. And I got Barbuda. Barbuda is an island in the Caribbean. And I have never been to Barbuda, but I have been to the Caribbean. So this is going to be a really fun challenge for me. So with this challenge, we can make anything we want that is inspired by the postcard. Look at the colors here. And look at the colors I've picked out to use. All of these lovely blues, yellows and golds, reds, greens and turquoises, colors of the Caribbean. I am just in heaven doing something here. So, last year I made a queen size quilt. This year I think I'm going to make something a bit smaller. I thought I might make a jacket, a quilted jacket, and palm tree on one side, house on the other side, sunrise, sunset, whatever, sailing boats. Things that are on here, perfect. I think that would be nice. But if I go to the Caribbean and wear it, I'm not going to wear a quilted jacket in the Caribbean. So I sort of thought about that for a while and I discounted that. And then I thought I would just like to make a small quilt. Not a wall hanging, but one that's sort of 40 by 60. So this is kind of postcard size. So I did take a photograph of the postcard and then I used an app to make pixels, but I didn't like that. I might make the pixels bigger and then make a quilt using pixels, or I could make a jacket in pixels. But then I did look at some other avenues and drawing and stylize the things that are on here. Palm trees, a bit of a mountain, a bay of water, a road or beach, some nice colorful houses, sailboats, and there's a couple of flowers in here, I think. So I think I'm just going to do a little bit of sketching. Now, I did quite a bit of sketching and painting in my earlier years, but I have put most of that away when I started quilting. You can make so many pictures, you can paint so many paintings, but they're sort of hard to give away unless they're really specific to somebody's tastes. But I like quilting because even if you make a quilt that is kind of weird looking, it's still warm and it will still be comfortable. And you turn the lights out when you go to bed anyway, so you're not going to see what's on the top. I think that's my philosophy anyway. But here I have something that I might want to keep in the future, just as when I'm older and in a wheelchair or whatever happens to me later. But I think that might be kind of nice to have something that reminds me of the Caribbean. So what I'm going to do first is just do some rough drawings. It's really not all that simple. There's a lot of detail in that and a lot of small pieces. But if I'm going to do something quilty or applique, I have to make it a bit simpler. So I'm just going to do a little doodling on my paper here. I have a piece of paper. I have a pencil. I have a marker. And I'm going to see what I can do. Don't laugh. I'm going to show you. Real life time. Okay, it's palm trees. They're at the top. So, palm tree. Palm tree. Palm tree. See? You can't see that, but I'll go over it with marker so you can see. Very, 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 very simple. And if I want to do some coloring in there, that could be a coloration. See? Not so bad. You sort of have they look like teeth, don't they? I don't know what they're going to look like when I do them. Sometimes I think I just like to do a marker. There's something. Okay, so there we go. There's trees at the top, trees at the top. Then we've got this sort of mountain, and this takes up the whole thing with little dots of houses all around. See? Little dots of houses all around. I could never do that kind of thing in a quilt. So I'm going to explode that and do something a little different. And in the quilting world, you want to have divisions, don't you? So I'm going to put a division here. And I'm going to put a division here. And I'm going to do a grid. Like that. How does that look? So I can make squares. So the biggest component is this beach, the beach here, with a mountain in the back and sailboats. Let's see. I'm just going to do it with a marker and see what I think. Mountains. Beach. That's curvy lines. I don't know, that might be a hard thing to do, but we'll see. And I'll just put something here. I don't know what it's going to go out here, but I can put a couple of boats out here. This one a bit bigger because it's closer. Couple boats. How about that? Now, let's put some more boats in because there's lots of boats here. Let's see. Let's see. Put 3 boats here. Sailing boats. Sailing boats. Sailing boats. How's that? 3 boats, lots of boats now. Now I've got to put some houses in here and some trees and flowers. So, houses. Houses are easy for me because I do a lot of houses. Okay. Lots and lots of houses. I do lots of houses. I used to go out and do plein air painting with watercolors, and it was a lot of fun to go out and paint. Let's see. So if I look at these little trees here, they look kind of like pom-poms. They're palms, but pom-poms, light and dark, light, big, like that. Let's see how I'm going to do that. I'll start down here. There's these trees down here. I'll just make a tree here. I don't know how I'm going to quilt this, but tree, and then just some lush place for foliage. Down here we could do something like that. Palm tree. So I'll put a house here. Let's see. Houses are kind of easy. Do I want house? House. More flowers? Maybe I'll put a flower over here. I'll just make something. What's in there? There's some nice colorful flowers down there. I'll just make something big, because that's what's in the Caribbean. Find some Caribbean stuff. Could have maybe something like that. Okay, house. All right, house. Well, houses. House. I'd put some. I gotta have a door. I'll have a couple windows. And one side of it shady and whatever. So house there. Let's put there's lots of houses here in a row. Kind of a funny looking house. Little village there. So something like that. I don't know. We'll figure it out. So over here, and here, more stuff. More boats. I think I've got 5. Lots of boats. Maybe a couple more houses. There's lots of houses all the way up around there. So a couple more houses. Let's see. House here. House there. Flower here, flower there, flower here. Or just house. So, something like that. I can do things like that. House, window. They don't have any chimneys. They don't have fires inside like that. So, tree, or another house. Tree. How about a flower? Another flower. flower there. Some kind of flower here, a different kind of shape. What else is in there? Something like that. So, something like that. They could be made in squares. I could applique or I could piece it. I just have to decide now where the colors are going to go. I've got lots of choices. There's yellow houses, red roofs, blue houses, yellow roofs, red windows. It'll be quite nice. So I'll just play around with my design. Something like that. Decide how big I want to make it and then make the squares as big as I want. And I'll just fine tune them as I go. I'm not sure how I'm going to make this yet, but something like that. We'll see how it goes.
So I've measured my grid and I've made something that's going to be 40 inches wide by 60 inches tall, and I divisioned each of the particles so that they could be a square or a rectangle, and it would work out. So I know the measurements for my finished blocks. I have a little bit refined drawing, so now I can proceed and try to make a couple of squares. I have this handy little device called a tracer projector. All you need to do is cut pieces of what I'm using, newsprint, measure them up. I pin them to my wall, and I set the tracer projector over top of the image I want to copy. And it projects it up on the wall. I just have to make sure that I am projecting it in the right dimensions, so my piece of newsprint must be the right size. So if I draw a line around the perimeter, and all I do is draw the lines that are being projected. Easy. So now I will just continue and make the rest of my patterns.
When I'm deciding what I'm going to use for color, I have to look at the pieces of fabric that I've got that I have available. I'm not going to go out and buy a lot of fabric for a project. I'm going to try to use all of the things that I have first before I go out and buy stuff. And look at all the things I've got here. Some of the things are just 5-6 inches and not very big. Some of the pieces I've pulled out have nice color, but again, they're not very big. Quite a few of the pieces are out of the bins, and they're great for applique and small pieces. That's why I decided to make smaller blocks and use up most of the things that I have here. But the key point in what I'm going to do is to be able to use the things that I've got, making do with what I have. Secondly, some of the things need to be 40 inches wide because I want to go right across the top of the quilt. So I need some pieces that are going to be longer than this. I have to be careful that if I'm using the same color in a number of different blocks as backgrounds, that I have enough for each of those things. So the first thing that I've been doing is deciding what background color I want for the blocks that I'm making. And, you know, my little diagram, I have measurements of what I want, and when I've drawn the patterns, with my tracer, I have an idea of how big of a space that it's going to need. Now, if I wanted to piece this with the fabrics that I have, it's going to use more of the background color because piecing takes more fabric to cut and shape and do things. If I use one piece for the background and applique on top, I can use a lot of these smaller pieces that I've got here on my table that are good colors for the project that I want to do. So what I have to do is decide what I could use here that makes a nice color combination for me. And I will then applique the things on the surface. And when I have my patterns, I know what size I have to cut things. And that tracer was really a handy thing because it's expanded my small drawing to the size that I want to make things. And I can just cut my patterns out from here and add a seam allowance and applique them on. So that makes it easy for me. I know it's going to be more folk arty than it is going to be a heirloom project, but that's fine. I think that's sort of the fun from a doodle to a design to a quilt, and I think it's going to go and I can embellish it later, maybe with some embroidery or some buttons or something like that. So on my wall, I've got pieces just pinned on to see where the colors are going to be in the background. Some of them I didn't have, like I think this is too dark. It might work. I'll try it. But I'd like to have variations in some of the pieces in background. This one is quite dull and this one's a bit brighter. But the intensity and the vibrancy of the colors have to be sort of uniform throughout. So I'm going to see if these things are going to work. And I just take little pieces of fabric and pin them on. This trunk is too dark for this background. This is too dark. It needs to be brighter. So I can see from some of the little scrappy pieces that I'm using what's going to work and what's not going to work for me in my sense of what I like. This one down here, I've already appliqued this one on, and I think it's going to work. I like this sort of a browny orange color and the bright colors of the leaves. Nice big things. They're appliqued on. They're loose. They're folk art. They're not precision, but I kind of think it might work for me. So I'm going to put that one down here. And I could do a few blocks at a time and I can put things where I want them. And it's going to come along. I'll just show you as I go along. I like the variations here. So it's going to be fun to do. One stitch at a time. I'm just going to work away at this for the next couple of weeks, and I'll post some more videos showing my progress. I sure hope I could get this done before Christmas time, but I have some doubts about that. It's taking a longer time than I thought it would take. But it's fun so far. And I quite like my little serendipity palm tree, and my hand stitching is not perfect, but it suits me just fine for a little while. So enjoy your quilting. Let me know what you think about my project and whether you think I'll have it done by February. I'll post a few more videos showing my progress, but they'll just be short ones because, it's holiday season. I've got to do holiday things too. Holidays as in Christmas time, and holidays as in we go south for part of our winter. So I have to get things all sorted before I want to go away. I hope you enjoy your sewing and leave me a comment about what you think. Yes or no. It's going to be quite different. And if you liked what I am showing you and want to see more, give me a thumbs up and I'll post some more videos. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.